The gaming phone space has filled out since the Razer and ROG phone launched. Xiaomi's sub-brand, Black Shark, and ZTE's sub-brand, Red, have created their own interpretation of budget gaming phones, and then OnePlus has straddled both worlds with its masterfully balanced OnePlus 7 Pro, an affordable flagship that puts gaming front and center with its 90Hz display. Asus knows the stakes, and it's taking no prisoners with its ROG Phone II, obliterating everything else out there when it comes to specs. The ROG Phone II is loaded up with a giant 6.59-inch AMOLED screen, with a 120Hz refresh rate. It's also packing Qualcomm's latest Snapdragon 855 Plus chipset, overclocked to 2.96 GHz, paired with 12 GB RAM. Need storage? The ROG Phone II has tons, with 512 GB by default, and a 1TB version coming down the line, complete with a matte black finish. It also has the biggest battery on the block, 6000 mAh, and supports fast charging, up to Quick Charge 4. Design. There's no getting around the fact the ROG Phone II is enormous. It has a 6.59-inch screen, is 9.48mm tall, 1.3 cm taller than the iPhone 11 Pro Max, and at 9.5mm thin. It is one of the thickest phones around. The glass front is dominated by the display, which is bookended by a bit of bezel, stereo speakers, and a selfie camera. Flip it around, and there's an almost identical finish to that found on the original ROG phone, with curved glass, a light-up ROG logo, and a camera, not to mention some hangry-looking glyphs that give the phone its aggressive design edge. Not content with one USB-C port, the ROG phone has two, one at the bottom and one at the side. The volume and power buttons are on the right side, and there's a headphone jack too. As for gaming highlights, when held in landscape, there are two touch-sensitive areas which act as air triggers, and a firm squeeze of the phone will fire up Hex mode, which animates some wallpapers, while also activating the RGB lights around the back, and overclocking the CPU. In the box, you'll find a bumper case, as well as a cooling fan, which can act as a kickstand, if you affix rubber feet to its base, which can also be found in the box. Display. The ROG Phone II screen is one of our favorites of any smartphone out now. It isn't the sharpest, the Sony Xperia 1 wears that crown, nor is it the brightest, with a peak brightness of 600 nits, the OnePlus 7T gets up to 1000 nits. It isn't even the only phone around with a 120Hz refresh rate, remember the Razer Phone II? It's also a touch higher in contrast than the tonally sensational Mate 30 Pro's display, or the Galaxy Note 10 Plus. However, it is the only OLED display to feature such a high refresh rate, and within the settings there's more granular control over screen saturation than on any other phone around. So, whether you want a cinematic, desaturated look, or a punchy world of Willy Wonka-style candy colors, the ROG Phone II has you covered. The screen specs are also solid, with 2340 by 1080 resolution, 10-bit HDR capabilities, and a 500,000:1 contrast ratio. Day-to-day, it also has strong viewing angles, depth in its blacks and is responsive. Performance. The Asus ROG Phone II is a powerhouse. Benchmarks results are virtually identical to those of the OnePlus 7T, which has the same chipset, but the ROG Phone II looks that bit smoother thanks to that 120Hz screen. Its side-mounted USB port gives users scope for charging the phone while landscape gaming comfortably, and is where you hook up the phone's accessories. It supports a new kunai gamepad, which packs some serious Nintendo Switch factor. Comprised of left and right detachable portions, just like the Switch controller, these can slide onto a centerpiece to form a joystick, or latch onto either side of the ROG phone to give it Joy-Con wings. Hook that setup to the second screen case, and Asus has created a cross between a Nintendo Switch, a Nintendo 3DS, and a Decepticon. We also got on well with the air triggers, which have been refined with lower latency, and faster haptic response. The ROG Phone II is also the first phone to feature two vibration motors, though their independent firing wasn't particularly noticeable to us. The phone also ships with a clip-on fan, which combines with copper piping, and vapor chamber cooling tech, to keep frame rates high even when the action gets intense. Battery life. With a huge 6000 mAh of battery power inside, the Asus ROG Phone II is a bona fide 48-hour phone with light to regular use. It easily made it through a day and a half without much effort, and with a 30 watts hypercharger included with the phone, you can charge it up to almost 50% in just 30 minutes. Impressive. Software. The ROG Phone II runs Android 9, with Asus's ROG UI over the top, and this time around, Asus has added a massive amount of versatility to the mix. Navigation is as smooth as butter thanks to the 120Hz screen and CPU. There's also a suite of gaming enhancements that are at the heart of the ROG Phone II's experience within the Armoury Crate app. Fire it up to access a carousel of your games. This is your games lobby. Here you can customize specific game profiles, tuning the display refresh rate, CPU speeds, audio levels and even screen touch sensitivity. And an additional console menu opens up control over the included fan speed and RGB lighting. Camera. Featuring the same dual cameras found on the Asus ZenFone 6, photography on the ROG Phone II is anything but an afterthought. Though a notable omission is the telephoto lens. The main camera is a 48-megapixel IMX586 sensor, coupled with a 13-megapixel ultra-wide camera. The ROG Phone II also sports a separate front camera which clocks in at 24 megapixels, and is, according to Asus, positioned in an ideal spot for live streaming. Image quality is solid in good light, with the ROG Phone II supporting either 12 or 48 megapixel resolutions. Auto HDR only fires up when shooting at the lower resolution. Shooting modes are plentiful, and a neat motion tracking mode can track objects across your scene. As for pure picture quality, the ROG Phone II is very competent, grabbing a lot of image information and handling challenging scenes well. Dynamic range is respectable, and in good light, it's hard to fault, producing natural-looking shots. As soon as the lights drop though, artificial lighting or outdoor night conditions prove challenging in automatic mode. That said, fire up night mode and things get a lot better. The portrait effects also work well too, and aren't just reserved for faces, working well with inanimate objects and pets too. Video is captured at up to 60 FPS at 4K and stabilization works across resolutions, and there's also no crop factor when switching up resolutions either. The selfie camera is nice and sharp, though unlike Samsung flagships, it doesn't feature autofocus, so you'll want to make sure you're at arm's length. The phone also sports 4 noise-canceling microphones, so you can stream with confidence in your audio. As for sound, thanks to the headphone jack, you can plug in your favorite gaming headset. Its stereo speakers are loud too, clearly audible in a bustling room, and according to Asus, significantly louder than those of the original. Verdict: Asus has knocked it out of the park with the ROG Phone II, with everything about it coming together to make it the best gaming phone money can buy, and a great phone across the board. If you dig its aggressive looks, and don't mind the lack of wireless charging or water resistance, then when it comes to gaming and battery life, nothing else comes close.